Hey there friends and enemies, JoPaWrites here again, and today we got news about some pretty big changes coming to standard weapons in the next update for Remnant 2 from principal designer Ben Curtin, aka Very Tragic on Twitter, and these look to really shake up the meta and introduce new weapons into builds that felt largely underwhelming in the past, in my personal opinion. So I'm really excited about this. If you know me, in my builds, I like to use a wide variety of options, and I'm really looking forward to these changes shaking things up like I mentioned. First off, we have the Blackmaw, which isn't getting a major update. Instead, it's got increased mag capacity and total ammo, and then you'll see throughout the video that reduced horizontal and vertical recoil is a pretty standard thing, changing with a lot of these weapons. And overall, Blackmaw is one of my favorites. I use it as kind of the ground level for a lot of the different options. Like if something is better than the Blackmaw, then I will definitely use it. If it's worse than the Blackmaw, I oftentimes won't, because it just feels underwhelming. So that's really where this is kind of the baseline for long guns, in my opinion. Then we have the Wrangler. This is one that I've always felt like could satisfy a role as like a old western long gun that just kind of has that snappy fire, but has not always met that mark. And now with this update, with increased fire rate, reduced vertical and horizontal recoil, reduced spread decay delay, and then slightly increased reload speed, all of that could make this feel just significantly better, which I think would really lend itself to fill in that archetype that the Wrangler wants to fill, instead of being kind of like a middle ground where honestly some of the harder hitting sniper rifles are just better for that, and then instead of this you could run a fully auto weapon and those would feel better as well. So that's where the Wrangler was in kind of this intermediate area that I never personally enjoyed. Some people liked it, and that's fair. If you are a Wrangler fan, then this is nothing but good news, but for me it's just really lacked a bit of that excitement that I would look for. In other games I have used weapons of this kind of archetype, and so I was really hopeful that this change will lead to me using it more often going forward. Now we have the Huntmaster. Increased damage from 70 to 105, which is kind of crazy. Reduced fire rate, reduced reserves, reduced horizontal recoil and vertical recoil, and then slightly increase the reload speed. So he says here, TLDR, this is a damage upgrade to DPS, sustain, and total damage. Comparison: base burst was 120, now 130, sustain 73, now 105, and total damage was 3430, now 3675. And again, if you have modifiers on, if you upgrade your build and you're able to maximize that damage, I really hope that the Huntmaster is a really good option going forward. I've personally not been a big fan of sniping in this game overall. I know you can do some wild things with DPS and sniper rifles, but I'm just really looking for a different way to play, so I may lean into these changes going forward with the Huntmaster and the other sniper that's getting a buff as well, and really hope that they kind of scratch that itch so I can be one tapping like lower tier enemies and that kind of stuff, and really doing a ton of damage to aberrations and bosses. And so we'll have to see, but I do feel like this could be a major change for this weapon in the positive direction. Then we have the Sureshot. This is another weapon I've really not used a lot, and there's really no reason other than I just feel like others feel better overall. This has increased damage, WS bonus, stagger bonus, horizontal recoil, vertical recoil, increased reload speed, and more responsive fire after reloading. This gun oftentimes felt like a little glitchy, a little like it struggled a little bit, especially with after reloading. It did feel like a little sluggish, and so that's maybe the reason that I never really enjoyed using this one. But this is another that I feel like could slot into a couple interesting builds if it really comes up to the level that I hope it does going forward. So the Sureshot, is definitely one that's going to be on my radar. I'll check it out once the update does drop and see if it's going to move into my loadouts. Another sniper rifle that's getting a buff is the Widowmaker. Increased damage 125 to 150. Pretty big change. It doesn't seem like a lot looking at these numbers, but when you add modifiers and bonuses and all that kind of good stuff, it can add up really, really quickly. So that's where I feel like just reading off these numbers probably doesn't do it justice, but just understand that that is a pretty significant jump. Reduce recoil speed, reduce horizontal recoil, slightly increased reload speed, more responsive fire after reloading. That's even more important for a weapon like the Widowmaker that has one in the magazine and you're constantly reloading. But I'm hopeful that going forward this will feel like it hits like a truck, and that could be very, very interesting going forward because having these snipers feel extremely powerful, especially we've gotten pretty much all the content that we can expect from this game. Maybe they throw us additional content in the future. I don't know if that's going to be the case. We have all the announced DLC, so they might as well try to bring everything on to the highest level possible with these guns. And it's really felt like some of these standard weapons that don't have innate mods fell behind some of the other boss weapons, which makes a little bit of sense just because those boss weapons are harder to obtain, but it still feels nice that these are getting a bit of a buff. Then we have the crossbow update. Again, this is one, I don't know if I've ever seen this in a really good build before, so I'm hoping that this will be enough to at least put it on people's radar. Increased damage, projectile speed, reserves, increased ideal range, increased range fall off, and then stagger bonus, as well as slightly increased the reload speed. The reload speed worries me a little bit because it's only got one in the mag, but as long as it's not anything major, the rest of these buffs really make up for that. So I do hope that this one is at least usable. I felt like in the past, it felt so weak that there was no reason to try the crossbow over a bunch of other options, and I just hope that changes going forward, to be honest. Now this one is insane. The Tech 22. Increased damage, reduced RPS, increased reload speed, magazine size, total ammo, min-max accuracy, reduced vertical and a horizontal recoil. That's insane. This gun has long been one of my favorites. It did fall off a little bit recently, but TLDR, noticeable DPS increase, absolute laser now, RPS reduction was for performance, but damage increase more than makes up for it. Can't miss. This is going to be a mainstay of my builds going forward. I absolutely love this thing, and I'm really excited that it's going to be a top tier option going forward. It's going to be probably the first weapon I throw on when this update does hit. Then we've got the Chicago Typewriter. I've always preferred the Blackmaw over this one personally, but increased fire rate, increased reload speed, reduced horizontal recoil, increased reticle contraction, increased accuracy, and then added a 0.25 delay before spread enlarges. Maybe it'll be good going forward. Like I said, the Blackmaw has always been my thing. It's just felt more consistent with the Chicago Typewriter having a cooler idea behind it, feeling like a Tommy gun essentially, but I just felt like it just wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. It didn't feel the way that I wanted the gun to feel, so I've personally never been a fan. I might check this one out, but this is one of the ones I'm kind of least excited about just because of the other changes just sound better in my opinion, like the Trinity. I don't think the Trinity Crossbow is going to shoot up the ranks, but increased fire rate, reduced recoil per shot, increased projectile speed, increased ideal range, and fall off range. All of that is very nice. Like I said, I don't really use snipers, and that kind of goes for the crossbows. Any single shot type of weapon is something that I never really used, but the Trinity Crossbow was always super interesting to me, and when I used it, I just never lived up to expectations. So I'm really hoping that the Trinity Crossbow will be a viable option so I can throw it in some builds and make some great use out of it. I'd be very curious if it works well with certain mods, and yeah, that would be excellent in my opinion. So hopefully that is the case, and I can toss this in and keep it in my loadouts going forward. Then we've got the Bulldog, another one that used to be very good, kind of fallen behind some of the better options that we've gotten. Increased fire rate, increased reload speed, increased secondary range, and then reduced recoil per shot. This is one that the people who have loved the Bulldog have been using this one since day one and probably have never removed it from their loadout. However, with these changes, it could be really fantastic. The fire rate at 2.5 to 3.5 doesn't sound insane, but with a gun of this nature, it could be crazy. So I do feel like this is Definitely one to keep an eye on, and I think Bulldog mains especially are going to be absolutely eating with this change. Then we've got the Bonesaw. This is one I'm really looking forward to as well. Reduced heat per shot, increased heat decay rate, increased overheat animation play rate, increased fire rate, and then increased base reload speed. TLDR, you can now fire 75 rounds before overheat. If you feather at all, you won't ever overheat. If you do happen to trigger it, it recovers more quickly. This might be the one that I replace my favorite Blackmaw with, just because I've always been a fan of LMGs and HMGs in video games, and I never fell in love with the Bonesaw like I did with other options, and so I would really enjoy if this was a primary weapon that I use a lot. Adding this to the Tech 22 could be absolutely insane. It's between this and the Trinity Crossbow that I'm most looking forward to trying out. I will see about those sniper rifles, how they feel. And overall, I think this is great. I'm glad the game is going to continue to get updates, at least for the foreseeable future. We know that Gunfire Games is going to be working on Darksiders as well as Remnant 2, but I'm just really hoping that they continue to, at least in increments, shake up the meta from time to time, because I feel like that could be absolutely awesome, and continue to change up the way you make builds and play the game, and kind of spice things up a little bit. I know there's a lot of people who are going to continue playing the game for the foreseeable future, so I do hope that they continue to make these changes and work on the game over the long haul. My name is Jopa. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. It helps out tremendously. Like I've said before, you guys are awesome. Appreciate all the support on my Remnant 2 videos. It's been absolutely amazing covering this game, and I hope to continue doing so into the future. Have a good one. I'll catch you all later.